I'm ready.
We are recording now.
Awesome. What's up? This is your boy Styles here with westcoaststyles.com. And we have my man Shad Reed in the house with us. And we've got a special guest, the legend, Sir Mix-a-Lot.
What's up, old brother? Man is in the building.
Man, I'm going to go way back. I was a teenager in high school, and all the mini trucks in the valley out here in LA was bumping My Posse on Broadway. And oh my God, everywhere I went, man, it was boom, boom, boom. My Posse's on Broadway, man. You know, so man, this is an honor for me because man, this is like my teenage years, you know, in high school, you know, being revisited again, you know, and it's just like it's an honor, man. Tell me about the making of that song, please. You
know what it was, man, is that I didn't have anything before that, right? I did this little thing called square dance rap, was like some fun, right?
Yeah.
You kind of get out, and then we started touring, right? So we always kicked it on Broadway here, and then I realized there's a whole lot of cities with Broadways. You know, we hit one in Arizona with the Dick's restaurant on this. I'm like, wait a minute, we could talk about this, right? So really, it was more about me and my dudes. That's how most hip hop starts, right? It's you and your homies, and you just making songs for each other, really. And it ended up catching fire because everybody has a Broadway or a strip they like to hang on, you know. And I spent a lot of time in LA in my early days, you know, trying to learn get my chops together. And I realized I had to go home and learn how to program because cats in LA was putting in work. I'm like, whoa, I ain't nowhere near these cats. So I really started. That's why I have a studio. I've had a studio from day one in my bedroom. Then now I just took out a swimming pool and put a whole studio in here, man. But that's where it came from, just me and my dudes hanging on Broadway. And then we realized there was there's streets in every city. And that I just like it. So everybody would relate to it. And it was just a car riding song. It wasn't mixed right. I listen to it now and be like, ooh, come on, bro. You could have did better than that. But it is what it is.
Hey, that was a booming bass song, you know, made for the mini trucks, and you know, but I love that flow. When I heard that flow, I was like, me and my posse, you know, and I'm like, that, you know, how'd you come up with that cadence, bro?
It was really more of a sing rapping, and then like the Beastie Boys influence and all that stuff kind of came into one, you know, and it was just like, but I wanted it to be more like melodic. I want everybody to be able to sing along, which is sometimes in hip hop a big mistake, right? Because people would rather you fly, and then they say, "Whoa, he got flows," but then nobody buys the record. So I'm trying to figure out, well, you know, let's just do something that's simple, everybody can sing along with, keep it thumping, and that got me into World on Wheels, and I played at World on Wheels back in the day, and I like, oh shit, like, woo, I gotta, hey. Ice-T was there, right? So he probably don't even remember this, but I remember like it was yesterday because I'm like looking up to Ice-T, right? And I walk in, I had the Fila sweatsuit with the red and blue. He said, "Hey, bro, yeah, you can't do red and blue here." He said, "You know what? You need to go on down to the swap meet and get you some creased Dickies and a white T-shirt and coming here with red and blue." He said, "Oh hell no!" You know, that's back in the day, but yeah. So I got introduced to LA that way, you know.
Wow. Rap, but you mentioned square dance rap. You know, that song, I was listening to it recently, and man, that song is a trip, you know. You know,
I don't know what I was thinking about when I did it. I did that. I was living in the projects back in, you know, and just chilling one day, and my dude came over and he was lit, right? He was gone. And we was driving, and we were sitting next to a dude in a truck, and he was literally playing. I never heard real square dance music, and he was literally playing that. And this dude was telling it, "Now grab your partner and round and round, round." I'm like, that shit is stupid as hell. Let's go home and do it. And that's how, you know, and Kid Sensation was around me that day. And we just said, let's do this stupid shit. And we didn't think it was gonna do anything. And then it got on the radio in Seattle. And then, you know, we sold about 75,000 copies of it. That was pretty good back then. Independent, you know.
Wow. Yeah, man. You know, that's a trip. How, you know, you speed up your voice or for that or what?
Oh, I didn't have no money for a harmonizer. What I did, I had a 4-track cassette that moved, the ones that moved at 3 3/4 speed or whatever the speed is. But I had that, And what I did is I tracked the whole song with the speed all the way up. So the drums were regular with the speed up. Then I turned the speed down, right? So, hey, mix a lot. I was talking real slow. Then I sped it back up, and that's where that all came. Because I didn't want to rap. I wanted to DJ, right? That's all I wanted to do. Because back then in hip hop, the DJ was the star.
Sure.
I mean, Dr. Dre, you know, Cheese. You had you know, Mix Master. Everybody was the DJ was the star. Jam Master Jay. So I said, you know what? I want to be the DJ. And I had the two cats I was working with. You know, one went on to pimping, and the other one kind of got out the game. I'm like, oh man, now I got to do this rap stuff. So that's why I was scared to use my voice at first.
Yeah. Wow, that's a trip. Another song, I want to quickly bring up before I let Shad, do his thing. Swash.
Yeah.
That became a Pussycat Dolls hit, man.
A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people like, this cat must be broke now, blah, blah, blah. But no, it was weird because Ness Rodriguez, who's down there in LA now, Nasty Ness, that's my guy, man. Without him, I probably wouldn't be doing this, real talk.
DJ Nasty Ness,
yeah, DJ Nasty Ness, that's my guy, man. And he called me. He said, hey, man. At first he said, there was this girl named Tori Alame or something like, I can't remember the name, but I think I got that right. She redid Swass, and it's called Don't You. But it didn't do nothing, right? So I don't believe in suing guys, man. I'm like, business, that's dumb business to me. Unless the song really just is demeaning to your original, right?
Sure.
So, but it didn't work, so I didn't trip. Then I get another call from Ness, like 3 months later. He said, hey man, remember I tell you about that Tori Alame song? I said, yeah. He said, now it's a group called the Pussycat Dolls that did the exact same song. I said, okay, and I still didn't say nothing. It was like, went up to 50,000, then 100,000, 250, 400, hit a $500,000. We said, all right, hold up. So we reached out, but I didn't want the girls to ever know that there was anything going on. Sure. That's bad for business. People crack me up when they say cease and desist. I understand Prince doing it because Prince, it wasn't about the money. But if you're about business, my thing is, why would you try to stop him? I didn't even want him to know I had nothing to do with it. If you look at the record, my name's not even on it.
Wow.
But I own 50% of it. But I wanted to make sure the girls got paid. I want to make sure Busta got his money for his verse. He put on one version of it because it's just smart business, and it made the song bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's the way I like to do business. I keep it quiet, but I get it done right. Try to.
Yeah. It's amazing though how they were able to make an entire song just off the chorus alone. Don't you wish your boyfriend was swass like me? I mean, they made an entire song just out of that one line.
Yeah. I mean, and it was big. I mean, that if they had stayed together, who knows? That group would have been huge. I mean, because they had a store in Vegas. I don't know if you remember that. I was going, I forget what casino it was, but they had a store in Vegas. It was a Pussycat Doll store.
Wow.
It was huge. And then, they didn't stay together. So I wish they did, though. They're getting back together now, but then COVID slowed all that down.
I believe, I was looking at the song credits, and you're listed, of course, but it also says CeeLo Green. Do you know how did you ever reach out to him about him making that song? Like, wow, bro.
CeeLo produced it, and he called me actually. He called me, and we talked. We went back and forth. Wasn't no problem though. I'm not, like I said, it's like I've done enough music to know you could just hear something, forget you heard it, and just start humming and be like, oh, I just made that up. You don't even realize you. And I wasn't. It was a cool conversation, man. He hooked me up with my cat Peter Shawcroft from Notting Hill, and we worked it out. That's the publishing company, and we worked it out. It was just nobody lost no bread. It blew up. Everybody got paid. That's how it should be.
That's dope. But I can't imagine though when you first wrote that song that it would become that. Years later. You know what I mean?
Man, let me tell you something. One of my guys in my group, right? He's like this. A genius, right? Dude's like, he just sees things and predicts it and it happens. He said, you know, Swass is like over 20 years old now. I said, so what? He said, man, I'm telling you, songs come back after 20 years. Somebody's going to sample it. I said, man, ain't nobody going to sample nothing off that record unless it's Posse on Broadway. He said, nah, they done already did Posse on Broadway. He said, trust me. Boom, that hits. He called, he said, I told you. He had predicted it. Yeah, he said somebody's going to hit it. You know, my thing is that I tell a lot of kids this in business too. A song can be precious to you, or a song can be unobtainium. It can be a commodity. And depending on which way you treat it, if it's precious, you know, as long as you got the bread, you can just sit on it for life.
Yeah.
You know? But if you really look at it as a commodity, as a almost a weapon, for lack of a better way of saying it, you can cut some weeds. You know, you really can, and other people can make money on it. Unless it's, I've turned a lot of it down. I've heard some bad ones. I just turned the ad down I was supposed to do today. Whew. A lot of money, but man, I would have been going out like Mr. Coon. I said, no, I can't swing that one.
For sure. Man, you know, that first album had some really classics on there. I love ripping. I remember as a kid going to house parties and hearing and I was like, damn, that's a trip. You know,
that album was like, because I didn't really, like I said, I didn't want to rap. So it was, the whole album was a hodgepodge of just stupid ass ideas. Every time we got one, we just said, let's go home. Let's knock it out. Let's go home. Let's knock it out. We just kept going and going and going. And we didn't really take it serious at the time because you got to remember, I had never really sold no records.
Yeah.
And Posse on Broadway went platinum as a single. And then the album went platinum, you know, in the same year. I'm like, oh no. Now I'm listening to the recording going, oh, that sounds bad. You know what I mean? But it's like, what do you do? You can't put lotion back in the bottle, man. So
for sure. My man Shad Reed is in the house. That's my partner. Shad, brother, I know you got a lot of questions for the legend here. Why don't you go ahead and knock it out, brother?
Sure, thanks. Shifting over to your next album, Seminar, can you talk about making My Hoopty?
Oh, classic.
Yeah, My Hoopty was just real. The matter of fact, the car we had in the video, not only was it exactly like the one I had, same color, I call it Exorcist Puke Green, and it was like with the dent in the same spot, everything. And it was just a real song about real stuff we did daily. That's just really, it was no hyperbole, no exaggeration, nothing the typical rap stuff. It was real. It was just preaching the truth, and it was fun. And everybody I know, rich or not, had a bucket.
Oh, yeah.
And that first car. A lot too. Yeah. And the heat didn't work. Everything I said in there was true. The heat didn't work. I had to put a gallon of water in it every morning. You know, it burned up a lot of gas. My dad bought it for me for $300. That was my first car. Yeah.
You had mentioned too that you aspired to be a DJ and not a rapper, but you also produced the entire second album. How did production kind of figure into it? Was that something at some point you decided you really wanted to, you know, get into as well, or did that just come out of kind of necessity too?
No, I think it was a little bit of necessity and a little bit of being a DJ, because DJs hear differently than producers. And I mean better. I don't mean worse. Some people go, oh, DJs can't. No. Producers are good. Musicians don't hear songs in totality. They hear their part. You know, oh man, for some reason that rim shot ain't loud enough. Can you turn that up? You know, that kind of stuff. But DJs have a tendency to hear things in totality. They can imagine what the room's doing to the song when they're producing it. And so I just said, you know what, I want to produce my next record because I think I want to make things a little more aggressive and songs hit harder and have a certain rhythm. I mean, the whole squeaky wheel noise in My Hoopty was meant to make that song feel double time to some people, because at that time, down south, they were double timing, right? So the song is 89 BPM, so it's My Hoopty, rolling, tailpipe, drag, but there's a through the whole song, right? So when I'm in the South playing that song, the crowd's doing this, right? When I'm on the West Coast, they doing this. Yeah, so it was like, it was two different vibes, but I really did that whole record with that in mind, that kind of a DJ perspective to production. So it wasn't really about my rap skills or scratching skills or beat skills. It was about the totality of each track.
No, that's really cool. And you did a very good job too. I mean, mad props for the production work on that.
Yeah, considering I did that all on a 1/4-inch 8-track reel to reel.
I think sometimes that's when you're forced to be very creative, and that creates the best results, as opposed to somebody having like a studio with all the bells and whistles and everything. It's like, no, when you're forced to get creative and your stuff's minimal, I think that's when some really cool shit comes out.
And I've been listening to a lot of other interviews, and I love listening to how people get creative, how they get inspiration. Nobody seems like they do it alike. Like I do this weird thing where I'll play somebody else's song, and then I don't listen to that song because I know what I just put on, but I have my phone playing random stuff. And then I go outside of the room, close the door, and get far away from it so I can't hear what it is, but I hear the and that makes me come up with a whole nother riff that sounds nothing like what's actually playing. So I have a weird way of hearing songs that way. I mean, the whole Posse on Broadway rap style came from the same song that inspired Square Dance. It was a dude next to us in a truck. And but because the way he was saying, he had this kind of a nasally, like I was like, oh, okay, shit, that's kind of cool. We'll try that. And that's kind of where I get ideas. And Seminar was really where I got to start letting loose and doing what I really wanted to do. It still wasn't right, you know. And then, you know, by the time I got to Mac Daddy, I kind of figured it out.
You're also someone that I was as a writer, producer, and performer. And, you know, you were talking a little bit about, you know, publishing and can you kind of elaborate a little bit more on like mechanical royalties and points? I mean, you've always seemed to be very in the know on all that. And I think for whatever reason, you get that, but a lot of other people in the industry don't. Why is that?
I think it's not in the, I hate to say this, but it's not really in the label's best interest to teach it to you. Because then you start understanding the importance of ownership. And I got caught up in some stuff I can't really talk about where, you know, you get popped, you get sued, and you go, okay, you start, you know, figuring it all out. Not that I got mad, because it was a real suit and there was really no loser. It was, you know, you settle, but you realize then, okay, and it was a brother. So I wasn't really tripping. Right, I'm like, it's cool. We got it together. Boom, we pound up. We split the money and get going. After that, I started realizing how important it is to own your music. Fast forward to say 1994. I learned this in 92. I went through a massive lawsuit with Nasty Mix in 91. And you know, I'm not saying either side was wrong. I ain't gonna get into that. But I was given my masters. I wasn't given any money. I was given my masters. And I'm like, man, I wanted some money, but I didn't realize. You know what I mean? I didn't know no better, right? Then I started doing my homework and understanding those masters are money.
Yeah.
Not only are they money, they're very long money. And that's why labels are fighting like hell right now to try to claim those masters are now work for hire. Why? Because new artists, they don't give their masters to labels anymore. They don't need to. They create a master, they disseminate it to the masses, they make their money, right? In the old days, you created a master, you give it to the label, they could just put it on a shelf. They can never put it out. You couldn't say anything. Kids ain't doing that no more. So now the labels are claiming that those were works for hire. So they want to own it in perpetuity. That's not going to happen though. And I think that labels need to do their part. And I'm happy enough to work with Rick Rubin, because Rick Rubin, I mean, he licensed stuff out. He gets stuff done. So it's like, okay, this is a partnership. And I like the way it's working, but some labels are just lazy. You go do the work, they make the money. And back then we were getting paid, you know, I don't know, 8 to 12 cents on the dollar, something like that. Maximum, that was max, you know, and that was the net dollar, not the, that wasn't gross, that was net. So I started to understand it's not just about your master, but it's also about your copyrights, like the writer share, the music share. Now you have Sound Exchange, which is a whole nother revenue stream, I think was born because of Milli Vanilli, long story. But I learned real quick when I started licensing Baby Got Back and licensing Posse on Broadway and using it in, dropping it in movies and, you know, everything from Charlie's Angels to all kind of commercials and Burger King and Butterfinger and all that stuff. And people say, well, that's selling out. Yeah, but you didn't call it selling out when record labels was doing it.
Yeah.
You thought that was cool then. You thought that was normal, but when Black folks do it, oh, that's not selling out. That's business. And I'm working on a couple of licensing deals right now, as a matter of fact. And I believe that owning your copyrights, owning your publishing, and not leveraging it is your mistake.
Yeah,
I fully believe that.
Yeah, because Baby Got Back, you mentioned that song. That song is a part of American pop culture. You know, like you said, it's in movies, commercials. I remember I was at a work party one time, like the Christmas work party, and they had like karaoke, and all 30 of us were like, "My anaconda don't want," you know, I mean, just like drinking it and singing the song, and it's a part of American culture.
Which is odd because actually, if people, I'm sure you guys know what the song's really about.
Oh yeah.
But some people think it's just about butts, and that worked. And what happened was subconsciously, it normalized the beauty of minority women. Subconsciously. If you look at the video, right? And it cracks me up, the dude that shot the video said he came up with it now. It's like, you know, how revisionist history as things go on, but ain't no way in the world he could have came up with it. But I remember how it came to me. I was sitting up watching TV about 1990, right around in there. And I think that's when Law and Order, I think, first started, and the Cosby Show was kind of reaching its end. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, other than Felicia Rashad, what woman of color is seen on anything on TV in a positive light? I couldn't think of anybody else, right? Unless you assimilated to another culture, right? Or you looked similar. It doesn't mean the women assimilated. I mean, Vanessa Williams, you know, was voted most beautiful girl. I mean, she was America's queen. One slip up, bah, get out of here, right? Yeah. I mean, that's how it went. And what you saw on TV were either a Black woman had to assimilate to another culture, or she was a streetwise prostitute on Law and Order that told the cops where to find the pimps, or she was an overweight maid that advised the white family on what they should do today, right? So when I wrote Baby Got Back, I used butts. It was just metaphoric, but what I was really talking about was culture. So in that, when I did that video, and every little piece of that video was by design. When the two girls are dissing her at the start, you notice they're looking up, not down. They're looking up. She's on a pedestal. When you saw me, the hoe, trying to have sex with her, I never touched her in the whole video. I couldn't reach her. We were looking up. She was on a pedestal, spinning. Wow. And that was done intentionally. I really wanted her to be the queen that was the unobtainium in that video. And that's really why, that's what Baby Got Back is truly about. And then it became a butt song to people, which is fine. That was fine with me too. But subconsciously, that minorities became normalized in pop culture. Now it's, you don't even have to say it.
Yeah. You know? And that opening line that you were talking about, you know, also became iconic with, you know, thanks to Nicki Minaj, you know, oh my God, look at her butt.
Yeah. And it's funny, man. That was all, I didn't think that song would hit. I thought it was just going to be something that created a problem. It did create a problem once I started to talk publicly about what it was about. All of a sudden, MTV said, now they say they didn't ban it. They say they moved it to after 9. And he said people were offended, but it was the #1 song in the country and on MTV at the time, right? But I thought my career was over. I never will forget the call I got from Heidi Robinson, who worked for Rick Rubin then, and she said something to me I never will forget. That's when I had my cell phone. You know, back then, cell phone was a baller. Then, boy, you had a big brick. I have a big brick. I'm sitting in the restaurant, and she, you know, you had to stand outside then because it didn't work in restaurants. But she calls me up and I said, we just got banned. She said, I know, isn't it a great thing? I said, a great thing? We just got banned? She said, I'm going to say this to you and then I got to run, hun. She goes, Mix, you are now Elvis Presley and you shook your leg one too many times on the Ed Sullivan Show. And she hung up. And it took me like 15 minutes to understand, oh, I'm the forbidden fruit now.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Which is, let's be real, 100% real. You look at Milli Vanilli and these people, when they reach that super pop status, there was nothing dark and they all gone. And so that was my darkness. Mm-hmm. And it was absolutely necessary in retrospect, I think, because people started to think, he's just a dumb coon talking about asses. And that's not what that song is about. So it forced people to start asking questions, which is what I welcome that kind of stuff.
It was actually really cool on the show Friends. There was an episode where the character Ross, like he sings "Baby Got Back" to his newborn to like calm him down. But then he says like this actually promotes a healthy body image. Like I was like, oh, that's so great that someone finally said that. And then Jennifer Aniston's character kind of takes it and then makes it all about ass, but it's just like, no, like Ross was right. There is more to it than it just being an ass song. So I thought that was really cool for, as popular as that show was and still is, that it's mentioned in that context.
Yeah. And I agree with you. And I think what it did, like you said, once again, it normalized something that was an outlier. I'm putting that mildly. Right. It normalized it. And it all of a sudden, white girls get on stage and sing along with me. And they say, give me a sister, can't resist her. Red beans and rice didn't miss. I'm like, this is beautiful. It's beautiful. Because I wasn't really trying to offend anybody, but I didn't want to bite my tongue either. And I think it was, it's one of those things where you wish you could predict it, but nobody predicted that. I know I didn't.
Mm-hmm. I think I even saw an orchestra one time, play that version of a song,
And I came out on stage.
They had girls on stage, and they're all shaking their asses and stuff. And
I'm gonna tell you, that scared the shit out of me, man. I was terrified, man, when I did that. I remember we went to rehearse it, right? They said they wanted to do it. His name was Gabriel, right? The conductor or whatever. And he sends me this version. And he says, I said, when are we going to do it? He said, we'll be there in 3 days. I was like, I got to rehearse this. So I go down to do a run through, do a rehearsal. And it's like these serious musicians, man, and I'm like, oh man. And they were like, looking at me like, it was real. Like, so I'm thinking this might not work. We did a run through on Baby Got Back. We did a partial run through on Posse on Broadway. And that was it. I said, that's it? We ain't gonna do another take. Nope. I was terrified, but let me tell you, it was everything that happened in that video was organic because those people that got on the stage, they were not there to see Mix Live. They didn't even know I was coming out. They were there to watch the orchestra.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm looking, me and my boy Rush Darcel, we're looking out and we see all these people like reading sheet music. And the girl in the black dress, she had her legs crossed with the glasses. She's reading. And she's going along with it and doing this. I'm like, oh my God, dude, we gotta go. And I walk out, silence, nothing. I'm like, so I just say, you know what? Let's just act like we're in front of a crowd and do what we do.
Yeah.
And when that dun, 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 when they start playing that part, first one that stood up was the girl reading the sheet music. She was the one in the black dress. She got on stage, and I mean, she was throwing it. I'm like, okay. Just when I thought, those are really orchestral movements in the dark right there, boy. I was blown away by that. Would I do it again? Probably not, because you can't get lightning in a bottle 2 times, I don't think.
Yeah.
But it is.
There was quite a few ladies up there throwing it. I was like, whoa, like, well, they getting down. Woo.
Yeah, I was surprised. I wish I could say I intended that to happen, but I didn't.
So how did you end up at Deaf American? You were mentioning Rick Rubin earlier.
Yeah. So I did, SWAS was independent, and Seminar was independent, both of those, and they did well. I mean, SWAS platinum, and then the single goes platinum, and Seminar goes gold, and I need to count that out. We stopped counting in 1991. We haven't counted a single record since then. So we got to be getting some more plaques or something. But so anyway, there ended up being a problem with some publishing stuff, and it ain't no beef with them guys. I mean, I got Nasty Mix, Ed Lock and Nasty Ness and all of us. I mean, that was an idea me and Ness and Ed had at a Chinese restaurant. Just sitting there eating, and we called it Nasty Mix with Nasty Ness Sir Mix-a-Lot. That was where the name came from. And but when the things kind of fell apart, man, I mean, they went their direction, I went mine, and I had my masters and no money, right? So all my money was depleted because of the lawsuit, and probably, they probably took a hit too. But we get a call from somebody claiming to be Source Magazine, right? So I'm like, Source Magazine, okay. I take the call, and it's Heidi, but I didn't know Heidi yet. And she said, Mix? I was like, yeah. So this is Heidi. I said, okay, we're Deaf American. I'm like, who's Deaf American? Because remember, Rick had just started this Deaf American thing. So I'm like, who's Deaf American? Well, Rick Rubin. I said, oh, Rick, yeah, Def Jam, he moved over. Okay. So she called, we talked. I said, okay, we're interested. We'll talk to you. That was it. So we ended up talking to RCA. We talked to like three labels in total. But there was something about Rick. First of all, dude's a legend, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what really did it, even though he probably doesn't even remember this, I was at the Sheraton Universal, and I was coming down. We were going to meet Rick. And I got downstairs. I'm waiting on my dudes, and LL's down there, right? And I speak to him and stuff because I'm a LL Cool J fanatic. LL Cool J ain't no joke. So I shake his hand, right? And he's like, what you doing down here? I said, I'm going to meet Rick. He said, Rick who? I said, Rick Rubin. And I forgot, oh yeah, that's your dude, right? And he said, hey man, he told me two things. One, don't get offended when you call his answer machine. Because his answer machine don't say shit. It just goes, please leave a message. Click. That's it. That's all you get, right? And he told me, he said, when he speaks, listen. Those are only two things he said, and then he ended up talking to some other cats, he's busy, and that's exactly what I did. I listened to every word he said, and I realized it was about more than just how much money he'd give me up front. He offered me the least amount of money up front of the four offers we had. But he was the most musical. He talked about the music. And more importantly, he told me what was wrong with what I was doing prior. And that's what I wanted to hear. A lot of people get offended by that, but I'm like, dude, you're Rick Rubin. You know more about this than I do. So, school me. And that's where the production style kind of came from. On Mac Daddy, things were cleaner, bigger, louder. There was space. There was a lot of stops and starts, and all those dynamic movements. That was Rick Rubin's suggestion.
That's really cool. Was it? Yeah. So like in Baby Got Back, like how the song drops out every couple bars and there'll be like that powerful line or that powerful punchline. Was that something? So that was like something that he would have recommended or suggested, or?
Oh yeah. I got it. I found it the other day. I think it's still in my safe. He was, back then we talked by fax. So he would fax me stuff and be like, on the Anaconda line, he specifically wrote, love that line, but get rid of some of the music. Maybe put a kick on each syllable. That was his suggestion. Don't want none unless you got buns, son. And it's calm, do the benzo sit-ups. And what Rick's thing is you can't have a loud without a quiet. So if a song is just constantly loud, literally by, bar 16, you're falling asleep because there's no dynamic movement. And that's where all that came from. Every single song on that album had that Rick Rubin influence in it as far as what he wanted me to do. Not that he tells everybody to do that. This is just what he told me to do. And I still do it to this day.
Now, another song that, this came after Baby Got Back, Put 'Em on the Glass. That song was just straight, woo, right in your face.
Man, that was and hear me out on this. That was the biggest mistake I think I made in my career. Not the song itself. Rick warned me, right? And so did my manager, in all fairness, Ricardo and Rick both warned me, hey man, you shouldn't put this out until your album's ready. But I was doing it in response, what I thought was response to MTV. because they said, you know, it was about butts and it really wasn't about butts. I said, well, you know what? I'm gonna give you a song about titties. This is gonna really be about titties. That's it, right? So I do this song intentionally, trying to piss somebody off. Well, no, MTV never played it once, but Video Jukebox picked it up, and oh my God, it blew up. We had no records ready to sell. None. I never will forget Ricardo calling me going, I told you. My man just said, I told you. He said, you probably just lost a couple $1 million just like that, you know, by putting that out. And so the song blew up. And by the time we had the album ready, people forgot about it. So I was like, okay, I'll write that down. That won't happen twice.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, you mentioned it. We had a thing called the box where you order videos.
Yeah, Video Jukebox.
Dollars. Yeah. That's I remember when I first saw it on that because I used to watch that all the time, and I was just like, bam, hit right in the face with some titties. I was like, dang.
We did that video, man. At that time, you know, I was feeling my oats a little bit. I always think that careers, new money. I have a song called Old Money about this subject. But I have a line in there where I say the new money ain't no money, but they tell me that the old money makes real money. If you hung up on the show money, go ahead and blow money and get your chick a 6 so she can break I don't want to say that, but you know what I mean. And that was that new money. You know, all them cars in the parking lot, those were all mine. You know, I got all this acreage, but I got a 9-car garage. That was so stupid, man. But in that era, you know, it stood out, you know, it stood out, and I just wish I had an album ready. That pissed me off. That was my fault too. I can't blame nobody else. I wish I could.
Wow.
Do you think the success of grunge limited your success as a hip hop artist since the city of Seattle is so closely associated with it? Like, I know you did that song with Mudhoney on the Judgment Night soundtrack, which is dope. But did you ever find it harder to kind of put Seattle on the hip hop map? Because I don't recall ever saying, I mean, there was Posse on Broadway with lots of local references, but when you just said like Seattle until you sampled that Apache song, you know, on the, and that was, you know, like the mid 90s then.
Right. Yeah. It was, see, cause I was cool with most of those guys. So I did a whole album with the Presidents we never put out. We never even put it
really?
out. Right? Yeah.
Oh,
never
wow.
put it out, man. It had some good songs on it, some good subject matter. Because a lot of times, you know, when you have a track like A Baby Got Back or a Posse on Broadway, people want that same subject. And when you say anything deeper, they accuse you of trying to be something you're not, as if I'm supposed to be, you know, 23 years old for the rest of my life. You know, but that comes with the game. That's what it is. But I think when grunge blew up, it diminished a little bit of what I could have done. Because all of a sudden labels were checking for Seattle. I had put together a compilation with E-Dog and Kid Sensation and all these artists, and it was around 1996 or so. And then it just didn't get no traction because everything in Seattle was about grunge at that time.
Yeah.
You know? And until Macklemore, it was, even when Macklemore started, grunge was still there, but he was able to bust through that bubble. And he had the help of who? Pearl Jam, you know, McCready and those guys, they love Mac, and I do too. Dude is smart as hell.
You've said that some of the things Rick Rubin taught you are things that you still apply to this day. Can you give some specific examples?
I think there was something about Rick that everything he does seems to be organic. It's not forced, and he can smell that fakeness. You know what I mean? So I made up my mind. I changed the way I interview after meeting Rick. He taught me a lot about what people like about me, which is kind of arrogant to say, because I guess it's more arrogant to say, I know what people like about me. Man, that's more arrogant. So yeah, so he basically let me know that, you know, be who you are, say what you mean about the song, don't be ashamed of it. Because when Baby Got Back started hitting, you had a lot of kickback. And we had some women picketing me at a college in Nebraska. I think it was in Lincoln. And they were threatening to picket my show.
Wow.
And Rick, well, it wasn't really Rick, but it came from Rick. Dan Charnas, who was Rick's guy. Dan Charnas called me on the phone and said, man, you know, Rick thinks you should hit it head on. He thinks just talk directly to him. So I hadn't gotten there yet. So I went on radio and I debated 2 or 3 of the girls. Didn't debate them. We just talked about it. And I clarified what the song is about. And one of them asked a pretty good question. So why is it wink, wink, nod, nod? Why is it humor and you didn't get straight to the point? I said, would you have listened otherwise? If I had made it straight to the point, beat you over the head with it, people wouldn't, I wanted them to have fun and then later go, hey, wait a minute, what's he talking about here? That's what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
And once they understood it, and not only did they understand it, I let them know that I was real about it. This wasn't like something I made my mind up later and go, hey, let's sanitize it by saying this. No, you listen to the song and you can hear everything. And when I explain what I explained to you guys about how the video was made and why it was made that way, I won't say they started to agree with me, but they didn't pick at the show. They didn't boycott the show. So, and Rick, all that stuff came from Rick. That's Rick being, hit it straightforward. You can speak, so speak. And this is the same guy that discovered Public Enemy, the same guy that was a big LL Cool J fan, the same guy that produced the Beastie Boys. So I'm like, yeah, I think I'll listen,
As far as controversy, I mean, there was you and then he had Andrew Dice Clay. So
yeah. And he's the only guy I could have got. I had Andrew Dice Clay on one song and Chris Rock on another. That would have never happened without Rick Rubin. Wow. That would have been impossible. Yeah.
One thing that I think is very interesting too, and if you don't mind speaking on it, kind of going back in time a little bit, you were bused into a different school district, correct? How did that shape you and kind of shape your perspective on things?
When I say this, people think I'm on some Uncle Tom shit, but I'm not. In a weird way, that was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. Not that I didn't want to stay in my community, but the fact that I had access to how other people thought. I got this, I'm looking at this like, what the hell are these people talking about, right? It was just odd to me at first. But then eventually, obviously, because you got this hodgepodge of people, you're gonna interact. Doesn't matter. And I remember I learned more about African-American culture as far as music is concerned from one teacher who was white at that school, at Roosevelt High School. I didn't know that Elvis Presley did not write the song Hound Dog. Right? It was written by Big Mama Thornton. That was the original version of Hound Dog. I didn't know any of that stuff. And this guy taught me that. So I realized, okay, it ain't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Now there was some bad. I'm not going to sit up here and act like there wasn't. But the fact that I had to go there, then I'm home, then I'm there, then I'm home, it taught me a little bit about cultivating an audience before I even knew I was going to do music. Because you understand how people think and what each culture kind of likes, what they desire. And there's ways to slip that in without selling your soul.
Wow. When were you christened or knighted, I should say, Sir Mix-a-Lot?
I tell you the truth, we was on tour and somebody told me, yeah, thou art. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? And I looked up and somebody had, I think my knighthood was snatched. Somebody told me you've been dethroned or something happened. I don't know. I forgot when that was. It wasn't that long ago though. I think it was a joke, really. I hope.
No, that's cool. And again, the reason I say that or ask that question in that context is just because of the way you put so much thought into Baby Got Back. And it just seems like there's a broader perspective that I feel like your life experience is played into, as opposed to just, if you were just in one environment or one community, it would just be this type of song or this type of song, but to be able to kind of masterfully blend the two.
And what I realized was a lot of racism definitely exists, but sometimes we mistake ignorance for racism, although racism is ignorant. Ignorance is not always racist, right? So, and what I mean by that is Black folks would do something. We do what we do, right? We had an area in Roosevelt where all the brothers would hang, right? We called it 23rd Union because 23rd Union was like, that's the hood. That's where we're from. So we always called it 23rd Union. So you'd have white cats come out and hang with us and they were trying to figure out the culture, but initially you get offended. And after a while, I was like, well, you know what? At least they're asking and not imitating it, right? So you start talking to them and you start explaining, hey, when we say this, we mean this. When we do this, we mean that. so Roosevelt had never won anything at basketball or football. All of a sudden, busing happens and they take the state championship in both. You know, but what happened is not only did they learn our culture, I got to learn a lot about their culture. And what I mean, not from television, right? And I remember this one dude, we were talking about lyrics one day. We had the same music class, the same one where the guy taught us about the whole Elvis thing. And we were talking after class, white dude, he's like, man, you into lyrics? I said, what do you mean into lyrics? He said, you know, like lyrics, like depth, something that's like, you know, double entendres and all this. I said, no, I guess so. I didn't realize that Parliament Funkadelic was doing that the whole time. I didn't know that. I'm just like, oh, okay, they are doing it, but I didn't know what that was. And I remember I got in his truck and he had a, you know, white boy, he had a car in high school. he had a Suburban. I'm like, whoa, he's rich. So I'm sitting in his car and he plays this dude, Gary Newman, who had this song called Cars, you know, here in my car.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of stuff inspired guys like Dr. Dre and myself, all that Kraftwerk, Gary Newman, Devo stuff. But there was a song, I can't remember the name of the song, and I have it too, because I became a big Gary Newman fan. And the lyrics, I'm not sure what Gary Newman's talking about on this line, but I'm assuming he was talking about being in a whorehouse, something where people had no feeling, right? And he was the only one there that seemed that he thought was normal. He said this about walking into this place. And I never will forget this line. You could feel them thinking over ways of merging with the thoughts I'd never dare to dream. I was like, God damn, that's a line, you know? And I started to get into other types of music after that. That's when I found Kraftwerk. And that's when I thought, like I said, we're talking 1970, because I was just a sophomore or something, 1977, 78, 79, right in that era. And I was a sophomore and I'm hearing all these songs and I got into all this Kraftwerk stuff. I had to be 78 because I didn't hear rap yet. Right. So I get into Kraftwerk big time and I get in the Numbers. And then I heard Planet Rock. I'm like, oh, somebody else is doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking they must have been bust also. Right. But to hear Black folks doing it, when I heard Afrika Bambaataa and the Soul Sonic Force drop that's when I started really trying to do my homework. How did they get access to those instruments?
Yeah.
You know, what instrument is that? And I learned about the TR-808. I learned about the Roland Juno 60s and all those boards. And I couldn't afford them. So I got myself a job, an after school job. And every time I get a check, I'd buy a piece of gear.
Wow. You know, you mentioned culture and things like that. Going back to square dance rap, do you think you can get away with making that song in today's time? Because you're actually a white person talking to, you're like Mix-a-Lot Coon and you know, and then you know,
man, it wasn't even supposed to hit then. I was surprised it even hit then, but I think rap was so new that people just accepted it. If I did that now, you know, they'd probably come over here and picket my house. You know, the time you could do anything back then. I mean, you had Rapping Duke and all kind of cats back then that were just trying to find something, find a goal, you know.
Wow.
Can you talk about the piece of you were talking about gear? You donated a piece of equipment to the Experience Music Project in Seattle, didn't you? What piece? I saw. I can't.
I got it in my other room. They you know, they rotate stuff out. But it's the Roland, my first Roland TR-808, the one I did Posse on Broadway on, the one I did Ripping on, is sitting right in the room next to me, man. And I still got it, man. The button still broke. You know? But that drum machine, man. And in all fairness, I got to be honest, the 808, I learned how to use it from watching and listening to guys like Dr. Dre when he was with the World Class Wrecking Crew. And listening to Egyptian Lover, who doesn't have a lot of credit. Egyptian Lover was really the first West Coast rapper I ever heard in my life. And he was doing something that was kind of like a cross between Kraftwerk and Prince, you know, but he was rapping. And I'm like, oh man, how do I do that? Because he had this little pity pat noise. And I could never figure out what that was, man. And Arabian Prince just told me the other day, it was a CV gate that they used on the 808. I never figured it out. So I used a synthesizer and I used a resonant noise, and I cut the decay down real low. So it had that. That's what everybody used. That all came from Kraftwerk numbers. That's where all that noise came from. But yeah, I still got that machine, man. I'll never get rid of it. I'd never get rid of it.
How did you get your appearance? I'm a big fan of BoJack Horseman, and so how did you get that? How did you get that gig?
They went through a agent that I know down in LA, and she called us up and said, "Look, they want you to do this." And I was like, "What is this BoJack?" And I went and looked at it. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said, "Let's do it. Let's do it." I did that, and I think a SpongeBob thing and something else.
Yeah, you did some stuff on Adult Swim too, so that's cool. Just kind of a reintroduction to kind of the newer generation.
And it's really, they don't give you a lot of money for that stuff. You just do it out of fun.
Yeah.
As long as you're not, doing no Uncle Tom type shit, you all right.
Yeah, we've definitely covered a lot of ground, talked about a lot of different things. Is there anything else you want to comment on or talk about?
One thing I want to say, because it seems like older cats have a problem with, you always hear this, right? Rap started, the people that listen to James Brown and P-Funk, which I was one of them, they started saying rap ain't real music. So now you got the old school rappers saying, these new school cats, this ain't real music, this ain't real hip hop. And all it is, it cracks me up. I just want to say this, man. I love what these new cats are doing. Now, they say, well, a lot of it sounds alike. Yeah, a lot of it sounded alike before. I mean, it's just what's going to separate you from the rest is to do something different. But I would just say, I'm liking it. I'm a little trapped out, but I'll still program trap beats for younger artists I'm producing. So it doesn't matter. But I just think y'all keep doing it, keep hip hop alive. And I love the fact that we got away from flowing though, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Because some people were rapping so fast that you'd have to listen to it 5 times before you say, okay, what is he saying right here? But now it's more singing. It's kind of sing rapping. And and I love it really, because unlike when you're spitting this crazy spitting, you watch the crowd doesn't really nod. They're just like, or saying it along with you. Where these cats got people moving in the crowd again. And I do kind of like that too. So I just love that the fact that these kids aren't doing what we tell them to do. I don't want to see them go, you need to go back, do what we did. No, you don't. No, you don't. Do your thing and it'll keep evolving. And I love, some of the money moves and some of the boss moves that Drake has made. I'm loving, and this gets me to my real point here. I look at cats like Jay-Z, I look at cats like Dre, I look at cats like Nas. And to me, they're younger than me. Well, Dre's about the same age, but they're younger than me and they're my heroes. Because Jay-Z said something in a song I never will forget. And this is when I became comfortable with growing older, right? Because a lot of times you try to act young as you get older, and that looks stupid. Jay-Z had a line in 30 something where he said, I'm young enough to know the right car to buy, but I'm grown enough not to put rims on it. And I'm like, ooh. And that to me is where some of these old cats that are whining about the new school, do business, brother. Sign some of these cats, help them get publishing deals, whatever you got to do, but leverage your power and leverage this brain. I mean, yeah, we were young. You think people listen to square dance rap, but boy, that's quality material. Hell no. It is what it is. And that's all I want to leave everybody with is like, the cats that are getting older out here, man, be comfortable getting older. It ain't that bad. Just handle your business.
What are you working on anything these days? Like, do you have anything coming out?
Yeah, I got this girl, man, up here, man. She is like, I'm trying to go back. You remember when like Little Kim and Sisters was just spitting, you know what I mean? Foxy Brown, she's on that level, right? She got fire like that. All she needs is production, because some of the production I've heard, it just wasn't really current, right? So I'm really thinking, I really want to work with her. Lady Taz is her name, it's Tazz, and she got spits. And I can't wait to get her in the studio and produce something. Seriously, real talk.
I'd be remiss to not mention, you were talking about hip hop artists, the passing of, DMX. What type of influence, did he have on you? Did you ever have any interactions with him or anything?
Never had. I did a show that I did a couple shows that he was on, but he was the big dog. So
Yeah.
he was kind of chill, and he just walked in and walked right past me, went on stage and did his thing, which is fine. But I'll say this about X, man. First of all, if you got a chance, go to Instagram and watch what Shantae said about him. That will make you almost cry. I mean, he said something to her that really touched her and brought out some things personally that she put up on Instagram, and I watched it like 4 times straight. It is it's a tearjerker though. I got to be honest with you. But back to X, I think he was one person. Usually when you have big hooks, your song has to be poppy, and then people say, so you sold out. That cat had hooks. I mean, the whole stop. Everything he said, they would say, and he could bark it out, but you never felt like it was pop. Something about DMX, it didn't matter how big his song got, it felt grimy. It felt streets. It felt New York. It felt good. And I just like, how hard that is to do, to have something that every kid from the suburbs is going to sing at the top of their lungs, and it's still considered grimy. It still has credibility in the town. That's hard to do, man. Really hard to do. And he was the best at it. And may he rest in peace. But that music will keep going.
For sure. So thank you again for being our guest. Like I said, it's a real honor for me, and for Shad. Before we go, can you give us a drop for westcoaststyles.com, our website, please?
Okay. All right. Yo, what up, dude? It's your guy, Mix-a-Lot, in studio right now. And you know what I like to do? I like to go to westcoaststyles.com. First, I thought they must design cars or something. No. They're about this hip-hop, baby. Beats and treats. Check them out. westcoaststyles.com. Mix-a-Lot. Oop, gone. No sugar in it.
Thank you, sir. We're going to go ahead and let you go about your day and your business. But again, thank you. And man, I look forward to working with you again, bro.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. Anytime, man. Anytime. Definitely.
Cool. Thank you so much, sir. Have a great day.
All right, y'all. Be good.
All right. Peace.
All right.